getting signed agreements. Signed agreements. And this was important to me, still is, but was important to me in the days way before we had this lawsuit and all the other stuff going on. Again, because people generally don't have a high opinion of real estate agents. They think of us as like used car salespeople. They really don't like the profession in general. So there's a challenge and an opportunity for each of us, which is to shift how they think about us. And if you aren't creating the right sort of environment to work with you professionally, then you're going to have a challenge leading them professionally. And agreements is a big part of what create that right environment. So signed agreements, something you should always be questing for, something you should ask for regularly, something that allows you to put them on your official client list, right? So they're the most important thing to me. I took this screenshot from the YouTube video that I told you I went back and watched, and I built this 5 or 6 years ago when I was very actively sitting at a desk every single day, calling on buyers and working with my agents' buyers through the process. So this slide shows you how I would get an agreement signed. And notice in my state, it's called a buyer's representation agreement. So if you see that little buyer rep arrow right here, this is exactly how I got agreements signed. And I encourage you to use this 3-step simple formula for trying to get some agreements signed yourself. So first off, notice, true to what I said you should be doing in the research phase, I was at a buyer consultation when I did this. So literally our team's system was the phone calls were just to set up buyer consultations. That's what we were always looking to do on a phone call. Then a buyer consultation was typically held at a Starbucks. That was my favorite place. Did a couple of other places, tried them over time, but never found a place more comfortable for me and a prospective buyer client than just a local coffee shop. If you have an office or a lender's place or anywhere else you want to go host these, go for it. But I just sat down somewhere public and somewhere comfortable. And here were the 3 phases to that consultation. Phase number 1, I call initial contact. And I go into a lot of detail about what to say, what to ask during initial contact. But just think of the fact that like you're sitting down at a Starbucks and someone you've never met in person shows up there. There's some period of time where you need to just be breaking the ice, helping them feel comfortable, creating or setting the agenda, setting expectations. That's all initial contact. And for some of you, it might be like a long time. It might take 10 or 15 minutes. For others that are pros, like Traci's a pro, in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, we're ready to go. She sits down, she welcomes you, she helps you get oriented, she lets you know where you're at, what we're talking about, and then boom, we're down to business. Same with me. For you, it's probably a work in progress. But again, in the YouTube video, I go into detail about like what to ask, what to talk about. There's some stuff, think about going to any professional service provider. The doctor is a really easy one. When you first get there, they first ask you a bunch of questions. That's your initial contact before you're even allowed in the room with the doctor. Then you go in with the doctor and he looks at your list of questions and all your answers and he asks you more questions. That's what initial contact feels like, right? Then the beautiful part, the best part, my favorite part, and Louisa, I'm a little over time. I went long on both of these. My best part is the rapport building. The rapport building is where you get to officially present, because demonstrating your professional service and your ability and your knowledge and your background and that you know the steps in the process is a great rapport builder. So what I used here, you're seeing a little screenshot of it, was an actual presentation. Sometimes I had it on my laptop. Early in my career, I literally drew it out by hand on a piece of paper. EXP gave you a presentation, and just a little teaser, on Wednesday, if you come back to this workshop, we're actually going to build your own buyer presentation using EXP's custom Canva template that they gave you. But at a minimum, have a plan for what you're going to do during this rapport building phase. And then this is how I get the agreement signed most of the time. I don't remember my stats now. I think I spit them in the video. I want to say I was like 80 to 90% successful of getting buyer agreements signed at a consultation, which meant like 8 or 9 out of 10 times people said, yes, I want to work with you, and signed an agreement. Here's how I did it. I put whatever was going to be fun about this buyer consultation at the end. And I said, before we do the fun part, we're going to decide if we're going to work together or not. And the way that I sign up new clients is through a buyer's representation agreement. So we'll review that, we'll get that signed, and then we'll move to the fun part. So literally people were signing right there so we could move to the fun part. Now, fun varies based on where people are at, but it's almost always looking at houses. Almost always, like looking at houses. So for example, if I was going to go tour them homes that day, I'd have the buyer consultation in a coffee shop. I'd tell them we don't go tour homes till we finish this part, sign the rep, and then we'll go. And only a couple times out of 10 did they not sign the rep before we went. If we were going to sit at the coffee shop and not go look at homes, what I always did was bring my laptop and we'd look through the MLS. Remember, I told you part of you being really great at research is knowing the MLS inside and out. We'd look through the MLS. We'd look at pictures. We'd look at prices. We'd look at sold. We'd look at on the markets active. We'd look at new construction if we had to. Whatever was fun, I would put on the other side of signing the buyer's representation agreement.